Hey everybody, this is a Work in Progress podcast. I'm Tubbs.
I'm Dale.
I'm Rachel.
This is episode 3.
Episode 3 of the Work in Progress podcast. As of now, we have the Instagram page up. It is WIP Podcast, WIPPODCAST. Follow us. You can... What?
No, I'm just kidding.
You can email us at artistswip@gmail.com for podcast ideas, topics, or any questions you have for us. Let's kick this mofo into some high gears.
Cool.
So
In the interest of full disclosure, I have
how
had
was your week?
My week was weekly. Overall, it was a good week. I got a little bit of drawing done for one of my sculpting videos that I'm working on. Trying to create the character, so concept art for it, which is good because I've been having trouble with that. And yeah. So what about you?
My week was good. I was still recovering from my little injury, but it's getting better every day, and I'm hoping Friday is the day I can get released back to full duty.
That's the third time you tried to fight off that group of bikers.
Right? But other than that, I haven't been doing too much.
You're working on my cutting board, which is very exciting.
Yes. Tracy and I have been working on an in-grain cutting board for Dale. It's based off your theme? Kitchen theme?
Yeah, I guess they call it a theme.
So we'll be posting a picture on the Instagram once that's finished, so you can see what we're talking about. But other than that,
what about you, Tubbs?
Yeah.
I had a pretty good week. Pretty busy at work. I can't talk about a lot of it. While you guys were talking when we started the podcast, I did want to say, if you guys are wondering why we didn't release, why the podcasts are released like they are, it's mostly because we have really erratic work schedules, and we wanted to have some in the bank because we did want to stay pretty true to keeping a podcast going. And I don't know if we've said that before.
I don't think so.
But if we haven't, that's kind of why we decided to do it the way we're doing it. It's not so much because we wanted to keep you away from it, because we love you, and we don't even know who you are. That's how awesome we are. But just a heads up. So any ideas you guys send to artistswip@gmail.com or the Work in Progress podcast Instagram page, we will look at, we will talk about, and we will get back to you guys as soon as possible. That is ASAP.
ASAP.
Keeping in mind we're working peoples.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rachel's wearing a beaver hat.
Yep.
Today's the first picture we posted on Instagram,
Love the beaver.
and it has Rachel's beaver hat
On a doll head.
on Dale's doll head. We're looking at the picture
On
now.
the table, that is a work in progress because
Yes.
we are putting pictures and art and stuff on it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit more added since that picture, so you can look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So today is the third podcast, as Dale mentioned, and it is my turn to pick 3 topics. I picked
Don't read them all at once.
What's the first one?
One at a time. Yeah.
the first one is technology and art, and what I meant by that was technology in art and technology and art, in a sense of how technology has affected art to date. How that's affected you guys, because I know that it may not necessarily be posting or editing pictures on Photoshop, but a lot heavier on, now we have YouTube, which is a huge jump for artists, because before, if you want to learn how to do something, you had to go buy a book about it, whereas today you can jump on YouTube and say, I'd really like to learn how to do X thing. And I think it's kind of, I don't want to make it sound negative, but it's oversaturated kind of everybody with art, where I watched on Pinterest how to make this, so I'm an artist now. And how you guys felt about that? Tubbs comes with the deep cuts. I wasn't messing around.
I don't like it. Can we go to the next one? No. Just kidding.
Are you talking about YouTube specifically?
No, not YouTube. I just mean technology. Whereas before you couldn't contact an artist that you liked.
Okay.
You might buy a book about him that you know an artist has mentioned it, but now a lot of the times if you read anything or if you're like, I don't know what TED Talks do, but because I really don't, because I'm kind of a dumb jackass. But if you would jump on like a TED Talk where they talk about artists or different types of art, you can literally email that person. I don't know why I said literally. You can email that person and say, hey, I have more questions about this, and that person can actually send you stuff saying, like, if I said, hey, if you have any questions for Rachel, ask her. This podcast is a good example. Like, you can say, hey, Rachel, I'm working on this. What do you think? You couldn't do that 20 years ago. You couldn't do that 10 years ago.
Well, personally,
really.
For me, it's been great. Like I think I had mentioned in maybe the last podcast, but Casey Love and Jordy Ushell are both amazing creature creators and monster sculptors that have done classes on the Stan Winston School website, which has been tremendous help for me. I don't think I would be where I'm at now if it wasn't for that stuff. So as far as that technology, yeah, it's helped me a lot and I like it.
This brings up a little memory. The other day I was having a conversation with
of my mind.
Tracy and I were talking about something similar to this, and we were talking about how easy it is to go on YouTube or Pinterest or whatever and learn something. Like you can learn how to weld, or you can learn how to make a book, or there's all kinds of things you can learn how to do. Whereas before, you actually had to go to a school to learn that thing. And if anything, I think that, some people are like, oh, it takes away from the art, specifically the art. But I think it enhances because you're allowing people to be more creative instead of just being put in this box, or being limited as far as nope, you have to go to school for this. No, you if you want to be certified or actually have a degree or whatever to be employable, different story. But to just learn, I think it's just making the community, the maker community or the creative community, just bigger. And I think that I think there's just been more benefits from the technology and especially how as time goes on things get cheaper, more affordable to buy, like CNC machines. They used to be crazy expensive. Well, now they're getting more affordable. And so people that couldn't afford things like that before, they're not so limited as far as now they can buy it and be like, holy cow, now the opportunities have opened up and I can explore more of my creativity as far as what I want to do or what I want to contribute to my life and to the rest of this world. So
I think it's given opportunities to a lot of people that do you think it's helped unlock certain artistic things in people that they didn't know was there just because they saw something that inspired them?
Definitely. I was watching a documentary on Netflix about I can't remember the name of it. If I looked at my broke ass phone, then maybe. But where this couple, they wanted to move out of their house. I think it was over in England somewhere, and they wanted to move out of the house, but they found this old rundown theater that they wanted to build their property on. Well, the community was like, well, we want you to keep the front structure just for historical values, but then outside of that, you guys can do whatever you want. So they had no concept of what interior design or how to build or even the things that they want to do, the possibilities of the new things that you can do with concrete. But towards the end of it, all of a sudden these people tapped into their ways of figuring out how they want their house to look, how to build it, how to do all these things that they didn't know how to before. And so I definitely do think it helps. It helps definitely build confidence within people.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I think you said a lot by saying that as time goes on, electronic stuff get cheaper because, excuse me, products becoming cheaper may not be great for like makers to an extent, but the maker of those products, I mean, but being able to access stuff you maybe couldn't access before, equipment or tools, helps a lot of people out that maybe couldn't afford that stuff before. And not only that, but I had a point before I started talking, and it went away very fast.
Well, while you think about that, it just reminded me of like, okay, so eventually I'm going to own a bunch of land in Montana. I've talked about this a lot, but it's going to happen. So I've been throwing around ideas as far as like what I want like the main house to look like, and especially I want to build like a huge studio. And so there's so many different building options now. You can use like the storage connexes, the shipping connexes now, or you can build from like recycled material and whatever. But I don't feel limited in my confidence to be able to do that myself. Yeah, I'm gonna have to have like some heavy equipment depending on what I want to do.
Right.
I'm gonna have to have some like heavy equipment come in. If I wanted to do the shipping containers, the connexes, yeah, I'm gonna need something to freaking bring those things in.
You can say that though, but one of the things too is where we're at now is instead of having to hire a contractor that has access to that, in a lot of places you can rent those machines.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before you couldn't, and now you can say, I want to rent this machine, and you can, as dumb as it sounds, I'm not saying you should do this, but you can go on YouTube and learn how to run it or learn how to better use it. Whereas before, if you had to get a backhoe, you hired somebody to use a backhoe, but you can jump on somewhere and they say, this is how you have to use it, this is why we do it, this is blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
That's information that's very heavily into, you're absolutely right, I could do this on my own. I didn't even think of that. That's an amazing
The
point.
college of
Sorry.
YouTubes.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff I learned how to, and as little, and I mean, the last few podcasts you've heard, and I haven't made very much progress on the blacksmithing front. The little I've learned is actually a lot. If I'd have started with just a forge and metal and a hammer, I'm leaps and bounds ahead of where I would have been if I would have just been left alone to work with that metal.
It would have been like back in the Iron Age.
Yeah, it would have been rock hard work to work with.
Yes. It's a little inside joke. Yes, that was amazing.
Inside jokes for outside folks.
But okay, so another aspect, you look the transition from film to digital photography. Remember how that was like a huge the traditional. It's like, no, we must shoot with film. That's true photography, and like you get into digital, it's taken away.
I remember when my parents bought their first digital camera, and it was an amazing 1.3 megapixel camera. It was a big deal. I know they spent some good money on that.
Everybody in this podcast is a photographer, professionally.
Yes.
Boom. Hashtag no filter, fuckers.
But don't call us for wedding photos or anything, because
I will do nude pictures if you are hot. Maybe.
I don't do wedding.
Gotta
I
talk
don't
to
do
my wife first,
birthdays.
but I'm pretty sure she's okay with it. If she can be there, not gonna make it weird. Just letting you know. But I mean, consider even just that. Going from film, 24 exposures a roll, you had the bandolier of rolls on you, to now you carry a 64 gig card and you could shoot 7,000 pictures.
And it's still not enough for some people.
Still not enough for some people.
We're not gonna drop names, but
No name dropping, but still not enough for some people. But I mean, that's a huge leap, and that's technology in art, and /art. Because I mean, that literally takes you from, I have 5 rolls of film and I have to get this one picture of the sunset, to a digital camera where you can just set it to shoot infinitely.
Yeah.
And you can pick the 15 to 85 to 120 pictures you want to keep.
Or more.
Or more.
Yeah.
In some people's case. Looking at you, person. But yeah, that's a huge, very, I didn't even consider photography, because that's one of the hugest ones for art. Is having to carry just even 4 rolls of film. A 64 gig card is, the biggest one's what, a CF card? The biggest card you would put in the camera?
Yeah.
CF card?
Well, those go up to what? 256
they go
now, right?
huge
Yeah.
now, but I mean, just consider the size of a roll of film. That's not even close to the size of a roll of film.
Yeah.
And you can carry 4 of those in a tiny container. Before you had, because I was thinking about the picture of the photographer with the bandolier, like they were shotgun shells.
Yeah.
No, it
rolls
was
of
true.
film?
It was true because when I was
Good
in college,
night.
well, growing up, I shot with film, and then when I got to college, like I was still shooting in film, and like they would honestly say, like, I'm not gonna quote the line exactly, but and the difference between an amateur and a professional is that a professional will use like 20 rolls of film to get the right shot, whereas an amateur will use 1 roll of film and hope for the best.
The disposable cameras were great, but unfortunately, you never got to see the pictures. You just threw them away when you were done. I'm just kidding. I got that. I took that from somebody.
Do any of you ever find rolls of film you shot before? Because I found some. and,
Not
like
not in a long
Yeah.
time.
it was a long time ago, but I remember finding a bunch of rolls we just never had developed. I was like, man, I'm glad I had to carry that camera around with the 2 AA batteries to make the fucking flash go. God, I hated that. I still have one of the flat ones that you put the roll and you stretch it out and
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I kept it just for
I
fun.
like just sitting there, just trying to advance the film. Like, still, give me a second. Okay, here's another aspect. Okay, such as with woodworking, you look at how the tools have evolved from like just if somebody wanted a specific, like you look at molding. Okay, if somebody wanted a customer wanted a certain like a certain roundness or whatever. Well, they made the hand planes on site back in the day. They would cut the blades to whatever the specific, whatever the
night.
customer, and then they would shape the body of the plane to meet to get that shape. So a lot of that stuff, I'm sure in their minds, like, man, it'd be a lot easier if we had this freaking machine. It'd be a lot faster if we could just
a router and just womp, womp,
yeah.
womp, womp,
So
womp.
if you think about it, you look at like the tools now, and if you could kind of trace it back to like maybe somebody's way of thinking, like, God, this would be so much easier if I just had.
You think those woodworkers would be like a lot of the film photographers are to digital photographers? Cheaters. That's
No.
not real
I
woodworking.
don't know. I think a lot
Make
of
your
them.
own plane, you pussy.
Okay, well, here's an example. Like, there's a show that I watched with Vanilla Ice where he went and
The Vanilla Ice Project?
where he went
I've
and
never
spent,
seen it, but okay.
he went and spent time with Amish, and so he was working with this one guy and I think his son, and he went to go because they were doing I think like a back patio remodel or whatever. All of a sudden, like, so what's his real name?
Vanilla Ice.
Okay. I forget his real name. Anyways, he
Mr.
was
Ice.
yeah,
Mr. Ice.
Yeah, Mr. Ice. He was expecting like them to use like traditional woodworking tools. All of a sudden, these guys start busting out drills, friggin' electric saws and all this, and he's like, "Wait a minute here." He's like, "Hold up, like, where are all these hand planes and stuff?" And the guy's like,
Robert Matthew Van Winkle?
yes, that guy. And they're like, and what they said to him is that, well, we got to get paid, so I got to feed my family.
The
And-
Amish?
Yeah, and the way that it there explains, okay, there's different sects.
They were Mennonites.
No, they were
They're
Amish.
Amish?
There's different.
Sorry, any people I may have offended by that. I don't know. And
So-
if you're on Rumspringa, rock the fuck on.
So within the Amish community, there are different communities that are more like as strict as far as like the type of machinery. There's ones that are just hardcore, like nope, everything is non electrical.
Automated,
Everything, yeah, nothing's automated. Then you get to some that are like, okay, we'll let you use some electric,
Yeah.
type machinery, and then there's some that are like, let's just do it, let's get paid, shit's got to get done. But they also have the mentality of like, as long as it doesn't affect.
I don't know, man. I feel like if you dress the way you dress, you got to be 100% dedicated.
Well, no,
They're dedicated to the clothes.
I'm
No,
not attacking them.
no.
I'm just saying, I personally, I feel like and you guys know this about me, but if that's your religion, that's what you believe, fucking believe it. Don't give yourself excuses for. I smoke, and I've been trying to quit smoking by using a vaporizer. I've been trying to quit smoking by using a vaporizer. I didn't say I quit smoking by using a vaporizer because I know that I'm not full of shit. Well, I'm full of shit most of the time, but I know that I want to quit smoking, so I taper off. But I don't say I'm quitting smoking. I'm just trying to smoke less until I eventually quit. When they do stuff like that, I'm like, listen, they have a meeting. We're okay with this, but we still got to make that money. I think Jesus is cool with DeWalt tools only. You know what I mean? Like that's the weird. That's why when you said they use drills, I'm like, they can't be honest if they use drills. And I know they do have different sects and different beliefs and all. And again, no offense to anybody that is. I just in my head when they do that, I'm like.
And if you are, maybe you can help explain this.
Yeah, that'd be great. Artistwhip@gmail.com. But go on. So I'm sorry.
So I think even though, okay, going back to what you were saying, I think that even if you do have these beliefs or whatever, but I think you can think forward a little bit and be like, okay, well, we can either stay back here in the dark ages and kind of take forever to get, I mean, not that they can't feed themselves or whatever, but I think that it's okay to move forward with progress. Like it's not going to hurt you. You can still have like your main beliefs, whatever, but if you feel like this is what is going to, this is your passion, and these are the things that are going to help you succeed or move forward in that passion, then do it. But if you want to stay back and you want to be a traditionalist, that's fine too. But anyways, going back to what I was saying,
Sorry about that.
that's okay. So if you think about the evolution of woodworking tools, how far they've come from straight manual to electrical, I don't think it has taken away. I think it actually has kind of helped in the possibilities as far as like what somebody can do to create something. I don't think that people are what's that word? Not held back, but limited
Yeah.
in the possibilities of, well, you look at 3D printing now.
Yeah.
Look at all the things you can do now. Like whereas before, like if you could go buy a 3D printer and say like your handle on your cooler breaks, well, you can print that for yourself. You don't have to wait forever.
I think from my point of view, what you're saying, at least the way I interpret what you're saying and what you're talking about, is very much in the whereas before, to maybe get a plane that would do that, you can use a router. Let's say 3 days it would have taken you to plane something to what the way you wanted is 3 days you could be working on something to forward your art form of what you're doing. Very much so in the sense of even power tools. I mean, it's very cool to use a manual drill, but it's also great to say if I know I have 6 weeks to get a project out. You can spend quite a few days of that 6 weeks just drilling holes if you use a manual drill. Whereas if you use a power drill, that cuts out a shitload of your time. Sorry about my cussing. That cuts out a lot of your time. And that also gives you more time to move forward with you. And I think that's why, like, I think a lot of ways technology helps out because stuff that would have taken you longer to do gets taken care of. Hey, there was a cut in that, and I'm sorry about that. That was my fault. I had to pee. It's kind of why I was rushing through that last explanation. But what I was trying to say was technology affords us more time with the project we're working on. In a sense, if we have a project we know has a deadline, like a lot of us do, especially if you're doing stuff, you're kind of a weekend warrior, where you're working on something and maybe not being able to dedicate weeks or a lot of time to it. Being able to have some of the power tools that we have available to us really does help out on time. For example, on the blacksmithing front, if you had to have two or three other blacksmiths with your apprentices, you'd knock out Damascus steel or pattern welded steel in a few weeks. Whereas if you had a power hammer, you could spend a day and make some really good billets of pattern welded steel. And that's what I was trying to get at on the power front and not the power front, but the technology front. And that as technology moves forward, I think maybe, again, I'm not an artist, but from that front of being able to say, basically cutting it down to, if I had to make a canvas and I had to cut down the tree, get down the frame for it, get the frame put together, and then stretch the canvas on it. If you can cut that down to, this is the size I'm going to cut my wood to, you cut it, you glue it in hours, and then you stretch the canvas on it later, a couple minutes later, that cuts down a lot of the time prep work wise. Not necessarily that technology moves art forward in every sense, just I know with power tools, at least from the maker or restorer or from that front, technology does help out a lot.
I think also that there are people out there that do get satisfaction from doing things manual labor, just straight manual labor, minimal or no power tools, and they get great satisfaction from that because they feel that they formed a connection with either the metal or the wood or whatever they're working with, and that's amazing too. I mean, if you want to spend time on that, because if you're going to cut down the tree and you're going to cut it in slabs, well, it's depending on where you're living, or if you don't have a place to draw out the wood to expedite it, then you're going to be waiting a while, unless you've stockpiled over the years slabs of wood. But you're going to be waiting a while for that wood to dry out before you can actually use it. But I mean, if you have that kind of time, you've dedicated your time to that, then that's amazing. But there are people that do also find the same kind of satisfaction from using power tools with whatever they're making.
Having an end product, yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, I know me and Rachel have these conversations, but the traditional Japanese woodworkers, those guys are purists to the extreme. And I mean, there's a reason their art and their cabinetry and tables and everything costs as much as it does, because you dedicate one piece of wood to exactly what you're doing, or maybe one slab of wood, and out of that one slab you get everything you're going to make. Where if the three of us sat down right now and decided to make a chair, all three of us would make it differently. All three of us might use different materials. I mean, when you take it down to, this is a slab of wood that's going to be a chair, that takes a lot of time to do, a lot of dedication to do, and a lot of times I think technology affords us...
Sorry.
I think a lot of times technology affords us, honestly, just the ability to make mistakes. Because if you're making one slab, you have to be a really good woodworker to be able to cover up a mistake. Not only that, if you make a major mistake, you're kind of assed out. Mm-hmm. Whereas right now, if you make a mistake, you can go to the hardware store or Lowe's or wherever you go, wherever you're from, to grab more wood to fix your problem. The purists go to, no, this slab of wood is the table, the chair, the whatever we're making, and I think that's really beautiful to a very large extent. But also, if you're making something to sell, you got to be really good at it. Because I'm all about that money. I'm not really all about that money, but I like saying that.
There are certain things that technology cannot reproduce that is natural to nature. Like when you
give it time.
when you talk about the Japanese when they build a house or whatever, there's a reason why when they use their beams, it's an actual branch or whatever, because they use the natural curvature and everything in that one piece, and they understand how things work in nature, and they work according to that. And whereas if you try to use technology to work against that, nature is always going to win. It's always going to come back. Just like,
well, there's a reason why those Japanese temples are still standing.
Right, because they understand how nature works, and they incorporate that into architecture. So they work with the movement of the wood instead of trying to work against it and just screw it. We'll just laminate a bunch of wood together and put a bunch of screws in it and hope it stays together. Whereas those things last hundreds, thousands of years. Whereas the stick-built houses here, they're not going to last as long, because not trying to incorporate the nature into the thing. But anyways, I want to talk about sculpture. How you think that its technology has either.
Well, I guess as far as technology for what I do, because I guess what I do, well, by definition, sculpture is more figures made with stone and chipped with a chisel and stuff like that. But so more what I do is considered modeling, I guess. But also,
I'm in your sculpting room. I've not seen a single model of a Corvette, so I would like to call bullshit.
okay, well, I'm talking about by definition, but it's also. I guess as far as creature design and stuff is considered traditional sculpting. So the technology aspect of sculpting can also go towards like programs like ZBrush and Mudbox, which are 3D sculpting programs. I personally don't like those. I have played with both those programs and started making some stuff in them, but I prefer what people are calling traditional sculpting, like actually using clay. So I kind of sort of, man, I know I wouldn't make it far in the industry because that's pretty much what they go to now is the 3D sculpting programs, but I know that my air compressor is a piece of technology that I wouldn't be able to achieve the paintbrush or the paint jobs that I get without my airbrush and air compressor. So
Right.
in that respect, technology definitely helps. I guess even the clay that I use, like one of the main clay that I use is Super Sculpey, which you can cook in your oven for a very short amount of time, and it makes a great.
Is that a synthetic?
It's a polymer clay, so
Okay.
I don't know exact ingredients, but I'm thinking it's mostly plastic and.
So technology has advanced the material that you use in the sense that it helps you to achieve the feel and the look, what you're kind of going for, versus just straight clay where it's kind of limited in its own way.
Yes.
To give you the definition of sculpting, according to Google, sculpt is to create or represent by carving, casting, or other shaping techniques.
Okay.
So, according to the internet in 2017, you are a sculptor,
Bonjour.
not a modeler.
Okay. Well, then it's.
Would you like me to
changed.
screenshot it and send it to you?
No, I believe you. I see it. I can see it from here. Okay, well, look at that, guys. I'm a sculptor.
Yay!
But
Came out as a sculptor.
I didn't know you were in the closet as a sculptor, but I'm
I don't
glad.
think I was. I have sculptures in the closet, but so yeah, that's. I'm sure if I ramble on a lot more, I can come up with other ways technology has helped me with sculpting. But
If you guys want to email us and kind of talk about like a way that technology has, I don't know, helped you, or how you see technology and art have evolved, or if you think there's the pros and cons of it, feel free.
we could even post something on Instagram with these topics, and you can just comment on the topics. I guess I don't know. It's an option. But so what's our next topic?
Yes,
Our next topic is
2 dogs.
that is my phone lock screen, and those are my dogs, and they're fucking awesome. My next topic is social media.
What about it?
What I meant was in reference to that was how do you think social media has affected art both negatively and positively, and how you think social media has affected what you guys are doing personally, what we are doing personally, both negatively and positively.
Dale? Just take the reins.
Well, I would say there's way more positives than negatives, because the artists that are actually good at it and it shows that they really care about what they're doing, I think social media gives them a chance for their work to be seen. I mean, there's been artists that I've admired for a long time that have seen some of my work and liked it on Instagram, and I know that's very small deal, but to me, I know there's no way that someone that I looked up to as an artist would have ever seen my artwork without the social media. So I think that's definitely a positive. I know with my YouTube channel, though it's still small, it's growing well, and there's been a lot of good feedback, and it's been very positive. A lot of people said a lot of nice things and stuff, so I think that's a big positive as far as social media and art. And so I can't think of any negatives, honestly. I mean, besides people saying mean things, but that doesn't really matter to me anyway. So I'm making artwork based on what I like, and if other people appreciate it, then cool.
Do you think that society has become more creative because of social media and because of YouTube?
I think a lot of people think they've become more creative, but I don't know, maybe I'm a little I don't know, closed-minded in that area, but I think either you have it or you don't. Either you're creative or you're not. So I think that maybe there's people that are creative that wanted to create stuff but didn't know where they wanted to, and they've seen something in social media that sparked that in them and it helped them. But again, either you got it or you don't, I guess.
Well,
that's the way I see it.
Honestly, I kind of feel like that's why I keep saying I'm not an artist, is because I don't consider myself creative. I know that I have an idea and I have an end result I want to get to. And there's been times where I've seen both of you. This is Tubbs talking. I've seen both of you kind of attack a situation and do things that I would never have thought of. And part of it is because my experience comes from seeing other people do that same thing or something like it and seeing how they attacked it and putting my own spin on it. But as far as creatively, I can give you both an idea and say, I want a tattoo of X thing. And you'll both attack that from your points of views. And I know I'm going to get two different end results, but one theme where I feel like mine would be very cut and dry and to the point. So on the front of you saying either you got it or you don't. Creatively, I don't think I have it. I just know that I like doing stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes people like that because people aren't unimpressed with the stuff I do.
Yeah, I may just be speaking out of a single idea that's in my head.
Well, which is fine.
As far as
what's the whole point of the podcast? It's our ideas. But that's what I'm saying, though, is that a lot of times, sometimes people feel like, well, I can't get this. Maybe you're not going to get to that. And if you don't, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, granted, you're not popping out reprints of something or doing something weird, crazy, and this is just, I do this one thing. I mean, we've talked about, I think, the first or second podcast, because we've made so many now, number 3. But in the second podcast, we talked about doing, making stuff to re-sculpt, or not, what am I thinking? What's the word? Not reprints, but,
reproduce?
Reproducing your sculptures.
Uh-huh.
You don't want to reproduce your sculptures. That's not saying you're arrogant and you hate people that want.
I don't want to mass produce.
That's what I'm
stuff.
getting at is
So you don't want to do limited runs.
Yeah, I would do a certain amount because a lot of my sculptures, like once I paint it, I'm like, man, I really want to paint it again to see what else I can come up with. Mm-hmm. But so I could probably, eventually I'd like to make, I don't know, maybe 10 to 20 copies of some of my sculptures.
Well,
but I'm definitely not mass produced.
It's like prints. You could do like a certain run of the prints. You could say do like 10 prints, and you do like 1 of 10, blah blah. But once that number has reached, then it's done. So this reminds me of another part of the conversation that I was having with a business partner and friend Tracy. We were talking about like
hashtag HSB Woodworks.
Yes. Do it, follow it. We were talking about the idea of inspiration, and so her thinking was that if I look at somebody's work and I want to recreate it, does that borderline into kind of stealing somebody's idea of what they did? And this is what I told her. I said, to me, inspiration is like you get inspired by something, and it triggers something in you to think, you know what, that is a cool concept, but I want to try it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think people get kind of wrapped up in the thinking of like, well, that's already done, I can't do it.
Well, that kind of actually goes back to the topic my sister brought up.
Yeah, it
For
does.
last
Yeah,
week,
it kind of
which
does.
actually, I know, sorry, Tubbs, I'm not trying to, I'm sorry, Rachel, I'm not trying
No.
to cut into you, but that was actually something, that was such a good topic that my sister brought up, because I actually been thinking about it all
Yeah,
week.
me too.
Because I remember that I was really saying like how I try to always come up with original stuff, but when I really think about my work, it's all been done before, but it's just, I've just done it, I guess, in my original concept, but there's none of my artwork is really, well, maybe
trust me.
one or two of my sculptures is 100% original, but I mean, I've done the Kraken, I've done my own version of the Frankenstein, I've done aliens, and I've done other things like, so none of it is an original idea, so it is definitely all inspired by other artists and other creators.
It's funny to see thinking about it. Like, it's actually hit me this week because my son was doing stuff with geometrical shapes, where they give him an overall template, whether it's an octagon, a pentagon, and they give him a bunch of shapes to fit into that shape to see what kind of pattern he came up with originally. And I thought about that, and it's not like I think about the podcast all the time, but when you said I thought about that this week, it kind of hit me because I realized one of the things I like to do when I see cutting boards or when I see
HSB Woodworks cutting boards.
HSB Woodworks cutting boards. Or what people do with different metals. There's a
TubzWorks.
I don't do metal, but yeah, TubzWorks. Follow me. There's Ross Modern Metal. Does a bunch of geometric shapes with his metal, and he makes them into a round ball, and he cuts. It's beautiful what he does. But watching that, I remember thinking when I was in math, I loved that part of math. When you take the geometrical shapes, they'd give you a template and say make something, or they'd give you a bunch of little. You remember the little blocks you used to get? It was a triangle, a parallelogram, a rhombus, blah 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 blah, and you'd put them together and it had to fit into one thing, and you had to fit as many as you could into one.
Okay.
I liked that, and when I make different stuff.
I hated math, so no.
I am horrible at math. But when I would make different stuff, I remember when I put stuff together, when like we want to make this table, we should throw this in here. Why? Because it looks really cool. Structurally, it provides no support because the structure I've put somewhere else, but I really like the way it looks that way. And I realized that might not be an artistic thing, but it is something I really like in wood. When somebody says, this doesn't need to be here, but it doesn't take up any space and it makes it look a lot prettier. Which I'm not all about stuff that's pretty. I like stuff that supports weight, stuff that's not going to break, and stuff that lasts. But that was one of the things I thought about when I was helping my son with his homework was, oh yeah, if you put these three shapes into this, it makes this. And if you put these three shapes, so you see one triangle, but it can be one triangle. It can be 4 triangles. It could be 3 triangles. It could be a slew of things. Well, I guess if it were 3 triangles, it wouldn't really be 1 triangle. It would be 4 triangles anyway. But anyway, it can be a slew of things. It just depends on how your eye sees that one thing. And I had the thought for like a second right now that Dale said, I thought about it throughout the week. Yeah, that does. What was your sister's topic again?
Taking one artist, taking taking one. Yeah, Dale, help
Inspiration
me out.
from
Yes,
another artist and making something of your own out of
yes.
it.
Why can't I remember it? I'm sorry.
Must be a
God.
really rock hard thought.
It's too.
Inside.
I think that you can also look at social media and you could be scrolling through, like, say, like you want to be looking at like shelving in a house, and you could be scrolling through and be like, you know, I haven't seen anybody do this particular thing. I haven't seen anybody do this, and still that's an inspiration because you're looking through all this stuff, and all of a sudden you get this like, I want to try it this way, and you try it, but to me, that's still being creative. Is that I don't. If you want to go by the traditional sense of creativity, I think you start to like compartmentalize things, and it just limits people. I think that people want to be able to be free to do things, to be able to kind of like a survivalist mentality in a way, but just be free to be themselves. So I think that the society as a whole, I think we feed off of each other, and it also brings inspiration, whether it's positive or negative. But I think that social media has brought, in the creative aspect, more positive things, because it's opened people's minds, and once again their self-esteem about themselves, to be able to go out and do something and be like, you know what, that guy just made this shit with a table saw. I can do that too. I can go down to Harbor Freight and buy some stuff, and I can make it work.
Well, I remember mine and yours conversation about using a simple table saw, whatever table saw you have at your house, which means you haven't have. Well, all three of us have table saws, right?
Yes.
I mean,
thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, you're welcome. And he has a miter saw too.
I do.
Oh, that's cute. Just the table. The amount of stuff you can do with a table saw is insanity. Sorry, there was stuff flying in front of me, and Rachel tried to point her finger at me. The amount of stuff you do on a table saw is insanity. And it's not even the recommended use of a table saw. It's guys that were like, how can I do this? And all I have is a table saw. Which is beautiful, because a lot of people wouldn't think of doing that. And you look at it and you're like, that's a 2-second jig I can make. I can take this, and this, staple them together, and make a jig that'll do this all day.
Yeah, we have a book in the shop. It's just strictly on table saw jigs. And it's a thick book too. And it's just like, you look through it and you're like, holy shit, somebody thought of this.
This is just supposed to be for repetitive pattern or cutting a clean line, and it's not. Yeah. It does so many things.
There's a jig that I want to make for a table saw to help get the angle cuts. I love the miter saw, but if I can make a jig on the table saw to do a lot of the angle cuts on the cutting boards, I mean, that's awesome. So that's an inspiration from doing something and thinking, you know what, I wonder if I could do this. But I'm not. Also, it comes with not being afraid to, if it doesn't work out the first time, okay, well, it didn't work out the first time.
Shit happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you move on.
That also comes with time and being able to afford to buy materials sometimes. Because I've done some really cool stuff. Like, I was super proud and my chest puffed out. My wife told me, the thing I like about you is you're not scared to take something on. I'm not scared to take something on if it's not going to completely screw me. If I can afford to fix whatever I break, I'm more than willing to try it. But this is just a personal thing, that's not what we're talking about. But I've noticed that if it's going to be something heavy, I'll ask around and make sure I do heavy research on it before I even mess with it. But if it's something I'm just trying to see if I can do something, I'm more than willing to jump into it. If I'm like, well, if I break this, I can probably afford to replace it. Let's see what I can do.
So you want to make sure it's rock hard. And
I want to make sure, I don't feel like that was a good one, but I'm
no, it
going
wasn't. I was stretching on that one. Damn it.
So stretching. But, sorry.
It was too soon. It was too soon.
But I will try it. Like, I can't tell you how many table saw blades I've chewed through just like, this should work. As it turns out, and Rachel has addicted me to a crack known as Diablo blades.
Ooh.
Which are amazeballs. That they're just good, beat the shit out of them blades. They take it. They take it. And inch by inch.
And you can bring them back to beauty, just sharpening the tips and.
But no, I was chewing through blades left and right, trying to figure, maybe I can do it, and I would fuck up blades. Mm-hmm. But again, you can afford to replace blade.
Yeah. So we could say together that social media has helped.
Social media has been more for good. And that actually kind of segues into my very last topic. Yes. Which, do we have time for my last topic?
Yeah.
Okay. The very last topic was hecklers and critics. I don't know if you guys have experienced this. I am willing to say before we start on that topic that I have a very good group of friends and people that know me that are all about like, hey, if you're doing something good, go for it, try it. It looks great. I like what you're doing. But there are people that do say like, well, it's the internet, and you have a faceless voice saying your shit sucks. I haven't gotten any of that. I was wondering if you guys have.
I haven't I haven't had anything like that, but at the same time, like, I could give two shits what somebody, if somebody finds something what I did that they don't like, okay, well, that's your feeling. I didn't make you have that feeling. You made yourself have that. But I mean, if somebody doesn't like it, then you don't like it. I'm not going to change my creativity process just to appease you, because that's not my goal in life. That's not my job to be here on this planet, is to create to make other people happy. Like, I create things because I enjoy creating it, and we have a following of people that enjoy what we create. I mean, but that comes along with being able to take criticism. It's just like, if you're basing your creativity off of what's that word, when you're
Approval?
yeah, if you're seeking approval, then you're going to be sensitive to stuff. Whereas,
probably
like,
not very genuine as an artist.
and
Well, no, because that to hit Dale's last thing, I feel like art, and I mean, now we publicize the process, but art is very much you personally spending time, whether it's weeks, hours, months, whatever it is, on a project, and then kind of revealing it to the world. And art, in a very large extent, is very personal. I mean, I've been working on stuff, woodworking, refinishing stuff wise, since and I've talked to Rachel about it. I've talked to Dale about it since probably about 2007, 8. It's 2017, and I was finally convinced by my good friends Rachel and Dale to start
you're welcome.
to start an Instagram of it. And there's so much stuff that I don't even have pictures of that I worked on. And that's because this is what I think looks good, and maybe somebody else won't think that looks good. And I'm not, again, not an artist, but you spend a lot of time working on something that looks personally good to you and is tip-top shape. It's exactly what you want it to look like, and you put it out, and that's a big part of yourself being exposed to kind of the world.
I don't think
people
there's.
you care
I
about.
don't.
Go ahead.
I don't think there's too many artists in this world that create things only for themselves. I think it's number one for the artist that makes it, but it's also for anybody else that appreciates it. If somebody doesn't, then I think some artists will take it very harshly if people don't, but I would question what would be the word for it? I would question the sincerity of the artist.
Validity?
I guess, yeah. I would question the sincerity of the artist if criticism completely crushed him and made him stop. I mean, it's for the artist and the people that appreciate it. And
I don't necessarily mean crush them in the spot. I mean, I know a lot of the stuff I've worked on has been worked on for people specifically. My wife used to work for in-home healthcare type stuff. And she would work with people that needed stuff. So she would go out, find maybe the furniture they needed or a coffee table or whatever. I would bring it home, refinish it, and they'd appreciate it. They might have appreciated it because they're like, well, I needed one. Whatever showed up is cool. But they showed genuine appreciation, and they genuinely like what I worked on, for the most part.
mm-hmm.
I've never had anybody say that's crap.
Well, I don't. When I got my first dislike on one of my videos on YouTube, it didn't hurt my feelings, and I wasn't sad about it. But I genuinely
You say that, but didn't you used to have 3 cats?
No.
Oh, it was a terrible joke.
Oh.
How you
No, but I
killed the cat in a rage.
genuinely
Wow.
wanted to know why they didn't like it.
Did you ask him?
No, you
Why?
can't see who dislikes it. Like, you just see a thumbs down. But like I wasn't crushed and I wasn't offended, and but I wanted to know what it was.
Which one of you cunts dislike my video?
No, I just wanted to know why. But I'm over it now. I don't care. I've had many more dislikes.
Well, no, like
since.
I think now I've had the positive reinforcement of you and Rachel to say like, yeah, people aren't gonna like your shit. And my wife is an awesome woman, and she's very much so hit if people don't like your stuff, then they can not like it.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people. I refinished the outside table and I was like, well, I didn't like what I didn't do this, or I was more worried about the stuff I didn't do than the stuff I did do, and I brought it up to a group of friends, and they were like, yeah, no, I will. It was that it was an all steel table. Somebody had made for a friend of mine's parents, an all steel outside table, and it had a half-inch thick glass on top, and I'm pretty sure the base of it was made of leaf springs. And she couldn't move it. She got old, so I took it home, ground it all down to bare metal, repainted it black. It originally had some weird marine boat upholstery on it, and I didn't like it, so I used a basic wood for the seat portion, put new cushions on it, and what bothered me the most about this entire redo was the rollers that were the casters that were on the chairs. The original casters were $35 or $25 a piece. There's 4 per chair, and there's 4 chairs.
So
That's $400 for just the casters on this table.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me thought, if I sell this, I have to sell it for at least $500. And that's me just giving away the work I did. I didn't really care that much about it, but I really liked the table. My wife really liked it. So I redid it, and I explained to her what had happened, and she said, just order casters that'll fit it. And I showed it to quite a few people. I showed it to Rachel, and she said, no, it looks really nice. I'm like, what about these casters? She's like, I didn't even notice the casters. What's wrong with them?
no, I have an itch. You
Oh.
don't have. It's
Rachel
my,
keeps scratching her
it's
forehead, and I think it's her.
It's
Because she
my
does this thing with her
itch.
nose that bothers me.
Oh, it's awesome because I
Um,
try to get in.
Anyway, before we get into that, I showed it to Rachel, and she said, no, I didn't even notice the cash. I showed it to Dale, and I was like, I'm thinking about selling it, and he said, well, I'll buy it. Which I think is his way of saying I'm your friend, and I like what you did,
No.
or he genuinely liked it. Either way, I'm not fishing for compliments. I just really thought it was cool that the 2 people said, no, I really liked it, and yes, I would buy that. So, I feel like from that respect, part of me was very insecure about those cashers, which I don't know why I'm attacking that particular portion, but it was very much like.
Do you feel like you
shit.
settled on those casters?
Oh, well, yeah,
No, that's
because the
why.
original casters are brass, and they have a ball, like a hard plastic ball,
Yeah.
that they look beautiful. The problem is that I'd put brass casters on an all black chair,
Yeah.
and that just looked dumb, in my opinion, personally.
Brass on black.
Actually,
No.
have you seen brass with walnut?
No.
It
The
looks
thing is that there's
amazing.
no other accents that are brass on that table. It's a black steel base with a glass, black full chairs. Now they're tan seats with multicolored backrest cushions, and the only thing would be brass with the casters. It looked fucking horrible.
But okay, so my mind goes to
There's no way it looks sexy unless I plated the arms in brass or put some type of brass on the
no.
arms.
You could have done it as like an accent thing. Okay, this is where my mind goes when you talk about like the brass.
I don't want to know where your mind goes. I've talked to you before.
Since brass is a soft metal, you can easily engrave things into the brass to help accent it. Like either for Dell, you can take a Dremel and you can carve in some skulls, or you can carve in some cool looking lines or whatever to help make it kind of like an art piece itself, instead of just looking and being like, well, there's some brass casters. There's so much you could do with brass because it's a soft metal. So that's where I go.
Mm-hmm.
The end.
No, it was to me the best way to go from that was to actually incorporate the brass into the arms of the chairs themselves, and that's the best thing I could think of because I didn't want to put it on because the base of that table looks beautiful. I think it's actually on my Instagram. I was a very huge fan of that base, and that's the reason I really like the table.
You all about that bass?
I'm all about that bass, no treble. That's the reason I liked it so much. That's the reason I was like, yeah, we're taking that home.
Mm-hmm.
But on that front, also, there's people that like it and people that don't. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Like, see,
Right.
Could you imagine that? With
Can you guys
brass-
see that?
Yeah, I
Hester?
actually
Tubbs is
can.
showing a
Can you
picture.
guys see this on the podcast right now? Yeah, it's not a video podcast, sorry, but you can look me up at TubzWorks and
We'll
look at the
Post
table
it
I'm
on
talking
the
about.
post it on the whip Instagram.
We will post it on the Whip Instagram.
And the video.
There's
When
no
we
video.
when we do the podcast on YouTube.
Yes.
I think it would look cool with the brass because
I don't. This is what it looked
Well,
like before. Hashtag before
I'm
picture
an
is
artist and I know.
on my. So, that's why I don't like artists.
I went to college.
I did not go to. I did go to college.
Your mom goes to college.
Hashtag Napoleon Dynamite.
What was the topic again?
It was hecklers and critics.
This is how I feel. You can be a critic all you want. You can be a heckler all you want, but I'm going to keep doing what I'm going to do. Because
I
I'm
like
here
that.
to
I
make
like that a
myself
lot.
happy and not anybody else.
I
So,
like that. And people like your work.
yeah, it's because I enjoy it. And that's what I put into it. So it attracts, since I believe in law of attraction, it attracts people that are like energy or like-minded or whatever to that particular thing. So I'm sticking with it, and that's my story.
Dale, do you have anything on hecklers and critics? I know you did
Suck
the
it.
YouTube thing.
Um,
No, we're not trying to
Well,
attack
I
them. I
mean-
mean, their opinion.
So, yeah, go ahead.
I don't. They don't mean anything to me.
Well, you look at
I mean,
the
critics. Like,
I don't fuck with you.
Nah, I'll take constructive criticism. Absolutely, I'll listen to it, and
I constructive criticize Dale a lot. Too much. Sometimes.
you do.
All the time.
I just ignore it.
Oh, see?
Yeah, you know.
Hashtag fuck
But-
critics.
No, I'll take constructive criticism, but like just negative people that just have nothing but negative stuff to say about my work, that it doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't, like, because usually somebody that has the guts to go up to somebody that's created something and just completely try to tear it down, that's an issue with that person. It's not the artist. I mean, if somebody's gonna go up to Rachel and say, "Well, your cuts are a little off" or something, or Tubbs, you did this way, or Dale, your textures are completely horrible. They just look like crap. I'm like, sure, I know that my textures aren't perfect and I'm working on it, but usually when those kind of people try to say that kind of stuff, it's an issue with them, an insecurity.
Technically, you may be right, but nobody having a good day says that shit to people.
You'd be surprised, people, they consider that a good day, that they just can't keep their mouths shut and they just
I don't
have to
know.
say something mean.
I think they get off on the power of that.
Yeah,
Because-
absolutely. It's
I just
there's a psychology there.
And
Absolutely.
maybe there's part of because I hang out with people that are mostly on the positive side, and I don't. The Rachel's law of attraction, I don't necessarily completely put any validity to. No offense, I don't pay attention to it.
You're fired.
Okay. But it is true. I mean, people that do that, you do kind of tend to push away. Not so much because if somebody came up to you and said, "Hey, Dale, yeah, when you were doing those textures, I noticed you were going for scaly and you went for a really heavily rounded scale. Maybe a more pointed scale would fit the piece better." That's a criticism where you could say, "Oh, I can see why you think that, because maybe a dragon would have more of a pointy scale, whereas what I was thinking of had more of a rounded scale." I can see that. But that's somebody
That's creative
saying,
differences.
I really like what you did. This is how I would have done
But
it.
if they had said it the way you just said it, that'd be
But
a
if they
polite
kind of
way
like,
to
your
say it.
scales look fucking stupid.
Exactly, yeah. Or in a, yeah.
Then you just look at them. That's just what the scales on the back of your mom's heads look like last night. Sorry. Hashtag into props. Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, there's...
I promise your mom's scales did not look anything like that. That did not make that any better.
Well, I think this was a good podcast. I think they keep getting better
I hope they do, and I hope
each
you guys keep
time.
listening.
I think my
Either you guys can keep listening, or you can just stop listening and wait for a few months until we get better, and then come
Yeah.
back.
That's
But
cool too, but don't
Please
because
come back.
we're still gonna get together and
Yeah.
we're still
talk
gonna
about
get
stuff.
together.
So thank you.
Thank you for listening. I'm Tubbs on Instagram at TubzWorks.
I'm Dale at Tecnicus Street on Instagram and YouTube.
And I'm Rachel, HSB Woodworks.
And that was Artist Work Podcast. So you guys have a great week.
Good night.
Thank you.
Buenos dias.